All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Tanner Gillette. I'm the Director of Admissions from the UB School of Nursing. This presentation today will be going over the Nurse Anesthetist or CRNA admission requirements. I'll be going over a brief overview of the program itself, and then I'm going to be doing a deep dive into our admission requirements, our admissions process, and common questions that are pretty typical for CRNA students. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to use the chat function. However, I probably won't get to them until the very end of the presentation, but I will stay on the call as long as there are questions. This meeting is being recorded. It'll be put up on our social media channels and website in the coming weeks, so you can refer back to it. With that, let's get going. So let's just do a quick program overview of our DNP CRNA program. Some quick facts. So the CRNA program is 124 credits in length. It is taught in a hybrid format. However, you will have at least one person class every semester while you are in the program. The program is completed at a full-time pace only. There is no part-time option for this the CRNA program. The program starts every summer, and students will complete this program in 3 years. So it will go fall, spring, summer, times 3. So you start the program in May and then graduate in May 3 years later. Our CRNA cohort that's starting in 2025 is starting next, or 1 week from today, because it's Tuesday. There are 2,200 clinical hours in the specialty area, and you will not need to fight for your clinical space. We will assign it to you. There may be other students from other programs or maybe like an MD student doing their rotation, but you will not need to fight for clinical time. Common question that I get about the formatting of the program is it front-loaded versus back-loaded? So the first year, the first 3 semesters is all coursework. You'll do some preclinical stuff, but it's all coursework. The second year is about 50% clinical and 50% coursework. And then the third year is about a third coursework, a third clinical, and then a third DNP project where you're doing your research for your doctoral project. So let's get into the meat of the presentation, which is the admission requirements for the program. So I'm going to go over all of these in detail afterwards, but we require a BSN degree, from an accredited institution. You must have your active US RN license. We will accept it from any of the 50 states or Puerto Rico or Guam, I guess, if you have that. We require a 3.0 minimum overall GPA and a 3.25 nursing GPA. That 3.25 nursing GPA is an increase from past cycles. I will go more into GPAs in a little bit. You must have at least 1 year of US-based ICU experience. It must be completed at the time of application submission, and it does not include any orientation period that you may have been on. We require 3 letters of recommendation, we require a personal statement, and a current resume or CV. So to go a little detail into the transcripts that we require a transcript from every school that you have attended. So that means that if you graduated from high school and only ever went to one school, you have no credit coming in from high school, you didn't take any prereqs at any community college, you have 1 transcript. If, by the other hand, you have 2 prereqs from 1 community college, a high school course that you got for college credit, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree in English, and a bachelor's degree in nursing, that means that you have 5 different transcripts that you have to submit. You have to submit a transcript from everywhere that you are getting credit for. When it comes to official transcripts from where you obtained your BSN, any graduate degree that you have, and any international institution. So if you have any sort of transfer credit coming in from outside the United States, that must also be official. So those 3 instances have to be official transcripts for us to review you. I can work with unofficial transcripts from everywhere else that you have, but unofficial transcripts does not mean that that they're in like any sort of condition. I.e., if they have been stuffed at the bottom of your book bag for 10 years, they're not good enough to upload to a competitive doctoral program. Even unofficial transcripts have to have your name on them, the institution's name on them. If you have a degree from there, it has to say that. If it has to have a GPA. I've had students upload unofficial transcripts that where they took 2, 3 classes and the transcript was 33 pages long. I've had students upload um, literally something that had been balled up in the bottom of a bag that they took with their phone, so there's a nice shadow of their hand. um, that is unacceptable. So before you upload any unofficial transcripts, please look at the state of them and make sure that they're clear and legible and that they're good enough to upload to a competitive doctoral program. We do reserve the right, if there are any issues with your transcripts, to require an official transcript. So please check your unofficial transcripts prior to uploading them. Screenshots of transcripts, unfortunately, cannot be accepted. It's not you, it's us. When screenshots get uploaded to the application system that we use, they get very jumbled and mismanaged. They just don't work. So please don't upload screenshots of any transcripts that you have. So the difference between a nursing and an overall GPA. An overall GPA is a combination of all of your credit and quality points averaged between all of the schools that you've attended within the past 10 years, with the exception of any nursing degree which never expire. So for example, if you graduated from your first bachelor's degree in 2002 with engineering, you did that for a few years, you built some bridges, and then you decided you wanted to go to nursing school, and you graduated from your nursing degree in 2009. Both of those are outside the 10-year time frame, but your nursing degree never expires, so your nursing degree is the only one that we're going to be using to calculate your overall GPA. Vice versa. Let's say in 2020, you graduated with your English degree, and as soon as you graduated, you went right into either your second bachelor's degree or maybe an accelerated program, and you graduated from that in 2001. Both of those are within the 10-year time frame, so both of those will be used to calculate your overall GPA. Your nursing GPA is all of your nursing specific courses plus some liberal arts courses that most nurses have completed. So when you're looking at your transcript, anything with your school's nursing code, the most common ones are NU, NURS, and NURS, like those types of things. All of those courses, plus those liberal arts courses that most nurses have needed to take, A&P 1 and 2, micro, chemistry, those types of things. While I have a list of the liberal arts courses that I look at and will include in your GPA, none of our programs, including the CRNA program, have any pre-required coursework to get into the program, meaning you do not need any specific courses to be reviewed for our program. So if you do not have one of the courses off the list that I use, it will not impact your application. You don't get a 0 for it. You don't have to go back and retake it. It's just not calculated into the overall GPA. The reason for that is that we take a comprehensive look at your entire application, and we see absolutely no benefit of making students go back and take an undergraduate course when they've been practicing as an RN. The best 2 examples of this are sociology and pharmacology. Most nursing programs require that you take a Sociology 101 course. However, some don't. I don't think that you'd be able to find any CRNA in the world that would argue you can't be a CRNA because you didn't take a Sociology 101 course. The other is pharmacology. Obviously, to be a CRNA, you have to know pharm. However, a lot of nursing programs build pharmacology into things like Nursing 1 and Nursing 2. We know that you've had the course. You can't be a BSN prepared nurse in the States without having that content, but you didn't have a standalone course. We're not going to make you waste your time and, more importantly, your money to go back and take an undergraduate course just to get into our program. That doesn't really make sense to us. So that's why we do not have any pre-required courses for the CRNA program. To reiterate the GPA requirements, CRNA applicants must have a 3.25 nursing GPA and a 3.0 overall GPA. So again, overall, everything within 10 years with the exception of nursing, nursing, those nursing specific courses, plus liberal arts courses. The nursing GPA has been increased starting this application cycle. The reason for that is our application numbers have grown exponentially the past few years. Every year we get hundreds more than we did before. And this past cycle was the highest average GPA that we've ever had for an incoming class. So the average GPA, the overall, sorry, typo there, the average overall GPA for the 2025 cohort, so that's the students that are starting in a week, was a 3.615, and the average nursing GPA for that same cohort was a 3.631. Those are up from what we've had in the past. We've always had high GPAs, but these are the highest average GPAs that we have admitted into the cohort. GRE or MAT requirements. We do not require the GRE or MAT for any program, including the CRNA program. If you have the scores, do not send them to us. We will not factor it into your application. It will not give you a bump in the application process. Some students hear me say this and they say, well, I thought it would really make my application stand out, and I've taken the test. It won't make your application stand out because we won't show it to our faculty because it's not part of our admission requirements. So save yourself some time. Don't submit the scores. Don't take the test if you're only applying to our program. Letters of recommendation. So we require 3 letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are very important. If you submit more than 3, that's wonderful that you have that more than 3 people willing to write a letter on your behalf, but we're only going to read the first 3 that are submitted. That's what we have too many applicants to read 10 letters of recommendation for every single applicant. But submitting more names, it's not going to help your application. It really just slows down your review process because of how our system works. So only submit 3 names. Recommenders should either hold a graduate degree or be a healthcare worker that you have worked with within the past 5 years. This does not have to be a graduate degree in nursing. It is very common for the CRNA program to have MDs, DOs, write PhDs, write those letters for them. That's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I would recommend at least having 1 CRNA though. But does not have to have, they don't all have to have a graduate degree in nursing. Nurse managers, on the other hand, often don't have graduate degrees, but they're often very, very, very good letters of recommendation because they can really speak to your skills. So as long as they fit into one of those 2 categories, we're completely fine with that. You should be having people write letters that can really speak to you, but those are the only 2 requirements that we have on who can be a author for one of your letters of recommendation. Obviously, I would say 99.9% of our authors for these letters of recommendation are healthcare workers currently working in the field. But due to healthcare firewalls, we strongly recommend that you use their personal email address rather than a professional one. A lot of healthcare facilities have increased their firewall protections, and because this is an automated email that goes to them, it often doesn't get through those filters. Obviously, healthcare facilities having strong firewalls is a good thing, but you just need to be aware of that. If the author is not willing to give you their personal email address, that's fine. You can still put their professional email address in there. But if they are not getting those auto emails, you need to let me know as soon as possible so that I can find a workaround regarding that. I can tell you right now that if your author works at Strong Hospital in Rochester, New York, nothing's going to penetrate that firewall. They got to use a personal email address. They're the strongest. So just be aware of that. Personal statement. All applicants need to submit a 1,000-word essay that answers 4 different questions. We are not looking for the next great American novel here. We are just trying to get to know you a little bit. The essay questions are on our admissions page. They're there now. You can go look at them, but they will also be linked to your student portal when you submit your application so that you can read, so that you know what we're looking for. Please answer the questions all together, not one essay for every question. Just one coherent essay that kind of leads into the questions that we're asking for you. Pro tip here, read the questions prior to answering them. It has become very common that students just upload the same personal statement for every single CRNA application that they're submitting. And I have been doing this for quite some time. I am completely fine. No judgment that you are applying to other CRNA schools. It's a competitive program. No matter where you go, you should be applying to other schools. But not every program is asking the same thing. In fact, I know that my colleagues at the other school are asking different questions in their personal statement. So just uploading the same personal statement for us, Johns Hopkins, NYU, Columbia, Iowa State, we all know what each other's asking, and we can very easily say, oh, hey, I received one of your personal statements. But so please answer the questions that we're asking, not what another school is asking. Resume or CV. Your resume is really, really important to your application. We use it a lot. It is where we learn about your work background. It's where we look at what certifications you have. It's where we see any shadowing experience that you may have. It's where we see leadership. All that type of stuff, it resides on your resume. So it's really important that your resume makes you stand out. Please be specific about your work background. I know that a lot of ICU nurses have the tendency to just say critical care nurse at hospital X. That's fine, but we need to know what floor you're on or what ICU experience you have. So please list what ICU floor you're on, your background. If you have to leave multiple floors, that's fine. But please be specific. Otherwise, you're just going to get an email from me saying, sorry, I can't accept this. I need to know where you're working, that type of thing. Like I mentioned, this is where you can include any shadowing experience, any research that you've been on, any leadership roles. Some tips here. Generally, your resume does not need to be more than 2 pages. Every once in a while, I do see a student that goes on to a 3rd page. I mean, that's fine. I understand that really the 1-page resume rule has become difficult, especially for nurses, when you have to talk about your work experience, all your certifications you have, your shadowing. I get it. 1 page is probably a little too short, but probably you don't need more than 2 pages. And there's no need to include your high school degree on your resume. If you've graduated from a BSN program, I understand you graduated from high school as well. All right, so let's talk about applying to our program. The application review period. Applications will be accepted on July 15th, starting July 15th, 2025. All applications must be completed by September 4th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are missing any documents by 12:01 September 5th, you will not be considered for the program. I understand that some of you are not in the Eastern time zone. Please be aware that we are an hour, 2 or 3 hours ahead of you, so you need to abide by that. When things get uploaded, maybe at 11 p.m. your time, it's what 2 a.m. my time. So please be aware of that. All application materials must be submitted by that deadline. This includes letters of recommendation. Please don't wait to apply so that your authors are under a strict, quick deadline, quick turnaround time, where they have to submit your letters on your behalf. If we do not have your letters by the deadline, you cannot be considered for the program. Every year, I mean, I've given this presentation for years now, and every year we have students that wait until the last possible minute to apply. They miraculously get everything in, with the exception of their letters of recommendation, and it's too late. And really, it's on the student because they didn't give their authors enough time to get their letters into them. So how to apply? Starting July 15th, you cannot fill out an application. You can start filling out an application. Sorry, got ahead of myself there. You cannot start an application before then, even to fill in your information. I say that every year. Students often don't listen to me. Then there are technical glitches because they didn't listen to me, and the entire application process is completely thrown out of whack. This is incredibly important this year because in early July, the university will be updating the entire application. There will be a system-wide update, and it is highly likely that if you start an application without a program, your application will get all jumbled. So please do not start an application until July 15th. Once you start the application, fill it out completely and submit the application. Do not wait for letters of recommendation to be sent in before you submit your application. Basically what happens is on the application, you'll input their contact information, you hit send, and they get an email asking for them to upload a letter. For some reason, students think that that means that they have to wait to submit the application. That's not true. You can go through and complete the application while you're waiting for those letters to be uploaded. Once you submit, you'll be emailed a link to the student status portal. On that status portal, you'll do a few things. You'll pay your application fee. You will also submit your personal or your supporting documents, personal statement, resume, copies of any certifications that you have. All of that is done after you submit the application. I fully recognize that our application is a little clunky. It's because every graduate program is using the application. So if you have any questions about that, I will be giving up on our website now is a walkthrough on how the UB application works. I also will be giving that presentation again sometime in June. It'll be a quick 5, 10, 15-minute max presentation. So look at that before you apply so you understand how everything works. When your application is complete, when all documents are received. So that means all your letters are in, all your transcripts, personal statements, all that is in. That means that your application is complete and you've done your job. Once an application is complete, that means that everything is to us. Student services, i.e. me, will review each application to confirm that you are eligible for our program. Basically, this is where we're confirming your GPA and that you meet the minimum ICU experience to be reviewed. If you don't meet the GPA or ICU experience, or there's a question about your ICU experience, I will reach out to you and we'll go from there. Students that meet the admission criteria, so that means you've met our baselines, will be sent for faculty review and be reviewed by 2 different faculty members. We will not invite anyone for an interview until all applications are reviewed. So the sooner that you submit your application and complete it, the sooner it gets reviewed by faculty. And then you'll be in a holding period until all applications are reviewed. Once all applications are reviewed by 2 faculty members, we will invite 60 applicants for an interview. Students will be informed on whether they will be granted an interview as soon as possible. It usually takes us 10 days to 2 weeks once the application closes to determine which 60 we will be interviewing. Applicants that are granted an interview will be emailed at exactly the same time. There will be a link to a website and you will need to sign up for an interview. Interview slots are first come, first serve, no holding spaces. We will not call you to schedule an interview. Claiming that you did not see an email inviting you to an interview will not be accommodated once the interviews are complete. There will be 5 interview dates and you must attend one of those days. All of the interviews will be in person. When I gave this presentation in March, we said that there was going to be 6 interview days. We apologize. We've now determined that there's actually just going to be 5 interview days. Interviews will last an hour and a half to 3 hours and cover a variety of topics regarding your experience, the CRNA profession, your critical care knowledge, and then familiarity with the University at Buffalo. Beyond what I just said regarding the interview, that's pretty much all I'm going to say about the interview. We have changed how we're doing interviews going forward, and there's 3 of us on the planet that know what we're going to be doing. So it's supposed to be a surprise. That's why it's an interview. But just as far as if there's any questions about like what's on the interview, that's pretty much all you're going to get out of me. No admission decisions will go out before the interviews are completed. So once you've done your interview, you've done the process. Decisions are typically released around Thanksgiving. Usually the last interview that we have is the first week in November. We haven't set the exact dates yet, but that's typically, it usually goes like last week in September, a few days in October, and then the first week in January. That's historically what we've done, but we haven't set the exact days yet. Decisions are typically released around Thanksgiving. We try to get them out before Thanksgiving, but sometimes, they come out after. It just kind of depends on the pool. We will either accept, waitlist, or deny a student. The size of the waitlist will depend on the interview pool. We don't have a set number of students that we waitlist every year. It just depends on the applicant pool. If you're accepted, you'll be given 10 business days to accept or decline your spot and pay the tuition deposit. So let's talk about the cohort numbers for this past year. So the application that was last in 2024 for a 2025 start, we had 322 applications that were started. Of those 322, 243 applications were submitted. Those 50 some, it just kind of depends on, some of them didn't meet the requirements. It just varied there. 195 applications met the minimum requirements. Some of those just didn't complete, some of them didn't qualify, but 195 met the minimum requirements. Of those 195, 60 were granted interviews, 124 were accepted, 14 were waitlisted, and 157 were denied. Unfortunately, the realities of a competitive program, well, really any CRNA program in the country, is that we have far more applicants than we have spots. So we cannot, unfortunately, accept anyone. No one can accept everyone. So let's go into some common questions that most students ask. What additional requirements do you have for international applicants? Unfortunately, international students, yes, even Canadians, are not eligible for any of our DNP programs. Our program is taught in a hybrid format, and due to the number of online classes, you will not meet the US State Department requirements to obtain the immigration documents that you need to study here. It's a State Department thing. There is nothing we can do about it. You cannot get the documents needed to study here. If you are already here on a work visa, you still will not be eligible because our program is a full-time program. There will come a point when you are in our program where you are no longer meeting the work requirements of your current visa, and you will no longer be able to maintain that visa, so you will not be then able to get a student visa to stay in the States. If you have a green card or you are a permanent resident, you are no longer considered an international student. In those cases, you're considered a domestic student and you're fine to apply for the program. What type of work experience do I need? Applicants need at least 1 full year of US-based ICU experience to be considered for our program. Your year starts after any orientation period your ICU has, and it must be completed at the time of application, not by the time you would start the program. So when you are figuring out if you have the minimum to get into or to apply to the program, you need to know when you came off orientation, and it needs to be complete by the time you submit your application. So because of that, typically students, I think I've only had in the 6 years I've been reviewing CRNA applications, I think only one student has had truly a year of experience. It just worked out that way as far as a student that applied. The average experience for the incoming class was 4.808 years. That is the average experience that students have. I think the minimum experience out of the 24 that are starting with us, I think the shortest was just over 2 years, and I think the longest was 16 years. They've been an ICU nurse for almost decades. We will accept any ICU experience. We don't have, some schools I know require specific ICUs. We'll take anything, but I will admit that if you only have NICU experience, you may not be as strong of an applicant than someone that has like a cardiac ICU. They're just not as exposed to the same amount of things. So you can apply with any experience, but you really do need to know your stuff if you're applying with just an NICU experience. Do you need your CCRN to apply to your program? No, you don't need it to apply. However, almost every single applicant that is accepted into the program has had it. I think in the 6 years that I've done this, there have only been a total of 3 students accepted into the program that did not have their CCRN. And those students were all doctorally prepared nurse practitioners that have been working in an ICU for a long time. So they made up with it for something else. It's shocking that they didn't have their CCRN because of their experience, but it is what it is. So you don't need it, but we strongly, strongly encourage it. If you're working towards receiving your CCRN, this is pretty common. That's great. We'll take that into consideration, but list it on your resume, like under your certification section, list CCRN in progress, expected completion January 2026, or whatever the date is. This is why your resume is important. Do we require shadowing experience? We do not require shadowing experience from our applicants. It is something that our faculty like to see, but it is not required. We understand that not everyone can shadow, so we're not going to necessarily hold it against students. If you do have shadowing experience, please add it to your resume. You can create a whole new section, call it shadowing experience, list out who, where you shadowed with, how many hours you shadowed, and what procedures you observed. You do not need to get into the specifics about what the procedures are. Our faculty members are all all CRNAs. They know what an appendectomy is. I'm not a nurse, so maybe it would be helpful for me, but I'm not the one reviewing this. So just, yeah, list those types of things. Doesn't need to be anything crazy, just who, where you shadowed. Maybe if they're a CRNA or an MD or a DO, that would be helpful, but keep it simple, just list what you had. We don't have a specific form that we have that needs to be filled out. I know that some schools do have you submit a supplementary form, like that the individual fills out. We don't require that. What if you have your DNP or MSN? For students that are For students that are MPs or have another graduate degree, you will still progress at the same pace as all your cohort members. This program will still be 3 full years. However, if you have those degrees, you likely will get some transfer credit to make some, not all semesters lighter in credits needed. So you'll have a break some semesters. So it's still the same program. You're still going to progress as everything. There just will be lighter semesters. Our faculty will take that into consideration during the application process because you can show that you can do a graduate program. They'll like that. But you'll still progress at everyone. There's no way to make this program shorter. After a student's been accepted, we will review any graduate courses that you've previously taken, but we will not officially review any transfers for transfer credit prior to being accepted. There's far too many applicants and not nearly enough faculty members to review every single person's transcript for transfer credit prior to them being accepted. The other thing, this has started to come up more and more. If you have your DNP, please know that you still will have to do a second doctoral project because the DNP project that you did previously was in your previous specialty. And in order to become a DNP at the CRNA level, you have to do a project relating to the CRNA experience. So please note you will need to do a second doctoral project. Can I take a non-matriculated course to make myself stand out as an applicant? You can, but it likely will not be at UB. Non-matriculated courses are based on availability, and we do not foresee any non-matriculated opportunities coming up. If you want to take a course to make yourself stand out, that's completely fine, but please make sure that we have a grade by the time we're reviewing you. You just being enrolled in a course during the application process, we won't consider because we won't have a grade for it. If you're currently enrolled, I can't review you until I have a grade for it, because basically that would mean that your application is incomplete. So please make sure that I have a grade if you're taking a non-matriculated course prior to application. Enrolling in a course for the summer or for the fall will do nothing for your application because we'll be in the review process at that point. Students often think when it comes to taking a non-matriculated course, that is the magic bullet for applying to CRNA school. I know that all my other colleagues at other schools get the question the same, and we all mostly have the same answer. There is no magic bullet to getting into CRNA school. And while taking one of these courses is great, it certainly will not harm your application. It is not the thing that is going to get you into the program. The past year, the only one student had taken a non-matriculated course that got into the program. It is not the be-all end-all that like students think it is on how to get into a CRNA program. I understand that you think it'll make you stand out, but in reality, it doesn't do a ton for your application. So please don't think that taking a non-matriculated course is like the magic way to get into the program, because it's just isn't. When do you need to move to Buffalo? While this program is taught in a hybrid format, students need to live in Buffalo for their entire time. You will always have in-person coursework starting the very first semester that you are here. So you'll always have in-person classes. Can my transcripts be reviewed before I apply? Unfortunately not. There are just way too many applicants, and there's only one of me to review any transcripts or calculate any GPAs prior to applying. So we will not calculate anything until you have been, until there's an active application for you. How important are letters of recommendation? Letters of recommendation are extremely important. Letters need to be submitted in a timely manner and really speak to your potential as a candidate. I know that a lot of students sometimes think, well, they'll have the leaders of their hospital write an application and they'll stand out. So they get the chief medical officer, the chief nursing officer, and the chief anesthesiologist of the massive hospital system that they're a part of. And if you know those three people and you know them well, great. I'm sure they will write you a good letter of recommendation. But more often than not, you met them once at a nurse's appreciation breakfast, and they are just submitting a form letter of recommendation for you, and it will do nothing for your application. So really, whoever writes your letters needs to be someone that can really speak to your potential. It's fine if they're not a graduate degree. It's fine if they're a nurse manager, but they need to speak to you, and they need to understand that they are due when your application, those letters are due when your application is due. If someone submits someone after the letter, you will not be considered. So they need to be well aware of that September 4th deadline. Does UB have grade forgiveness? So I get this question a lot, and I think that there's some confusion about the term grade forgiveness. I can't forgive anything. Grade forgiveness is a formal process that takes place at the institution where you received the grades in question. If you are asking, I have taken a class twice, which grade will count in my GPA? That answer is going to depend. If you took A&P 1 to get into your BSN coursework and you got a D in it, but then you retook the course and you got a B in it, because it was used as a replacement grade, that D is gone. It's not included in your GPA, but the B is. If, by contrast, you got a B in anatomy and physiology, you went through your BSN coursework, you graduated, and then you look back, oh, that's the only B that I had, I'm going to go back and retake it and get an A, that's fine. I will use the higher grade in your nursing GPA. However, because the B was used to calculate your GPA from that you obtained a degree with, that B will always be there. It will always be calculated into your overall GPA. So it really kind of depends. And a lot of students ask me about this because they have like one C that they just can't live with. And listen, like I said, I've worked with CRNAs for 6 years. I've done nursing admissions for over a decade. I get it. Nurses are type A and they want everything to be perfect. Nothing wrong with that. But going back and retaking one course where you got a B and you maybe get an A minus is mathematically not going to change your GPA all that much. It's not gonna be like the crazy thing that gets you into the program. So that's what I can say about grade forgiveness. It just depends. I can't forgive anything. It depends on your school's process. What are the most common reasons students are denied? Number one, we don't have space to accept everyone. It's as simple as that. You saw those numbers. We don't have more than 24 spots, so that's how many students we can accept. They don't have enough ICU experience. We often have students where faculty are reading an application and they have a very strong GPA, they have very good letters, and they say this student absolutely has potential, but they just aren't ready yet. They need a little bit more ICU experience. And they get that, they come back and they often can get it. They wait until the very last minute to submit their application and then didn't give us the correct materials. Every year, I'm always shocked that I log out at 5 p.m. the night before the application closes. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens when I come in the next morning. And without question, there are 3 brand new applications where they have paid their materials, magically gotten everything into us. But what they uploaded is the wrong thing, or they left out a transcript, and because they waited until the last possible minute, their application is now complete and they get denied. So don't wait to apply. Students didn't submit a good personal statement or resume. Again, like I said in the personal statement slide, this is a really easy way to make yourself stand out, but it's also a really easy way to sink your application if you're not answering what we're looking for. And then again, just like with the first statement, they missed one question during the interview. It's an incredibly competitive program and the interview can be hard. So it is challenging. And sometimes everyone has an off day. What are my tips for making your application the best it can be? 1, check your documents before you upload them. Do not upload photos or poor quality documents. Read the questions before being asked, before you write your personal statement. I think I've stressed that point strong enough. Our faculty read through all of your materials together. So think of all of your documents as one document. So that means that the resume that you upload should have the same font and style of your personal statement. Now, we completely understand that the letters that are being uploaded on your behalf might be different. That we're not going to hold that against you, but just do your best to make your application feel like one coherent document. Think of things beyond non-matriculated coursework that show you can do a DNP program. Get on a research project within your hospital system, talk about leadership roles, make sure your resume makes you stand out. When I say research project, I do not mean or expect that anyone here is going to be the primary investigator on something. But if you are working in the neuro ICU and there is a physician there that is researching or testing out a new care model for stroke patients, and you help them with their data and their process, that is on a research project. That is something that you can put on your resume that can make yourself stand out. Sometimes you do research in high school, or not high school, in undergrad. That's something that you can put on your resume that can make yourself stand out. Any leadership roles, those types of things can really make your resume stand out. So then some final thoughts before I stop the recording and take any questions from anyone that is here on the call live. Number 1, there is no magic bullet when applying to CRNA school. I know that the process can be overwhelming. I have worked with, at this point, probably thousands of CRNA applicants. But please stop listening to educational influencers on YouTube and on Instagram and on Reddit that insist that they are the ones that can get you into CRNA school. I don't want to say that they are a scam, and I'm sure that many of them are very well intentioned. But the reality is, I have done this process for 6 years. Every year, we have changed our admissions process. So even if someone graduated from our program, it was not the same requirements and same process that was there when they applied to the program. So I'm here. I'm a free resource. I may not always give you the answer that you want, but I will always give you the correct information. This has been a very big topic among me and my peers at other schools, where we are seeing more and more students listen to influencers that don't know what they are talking about. And they get anxiety about the process because of what they're told. And then they don't listen to what we are saying because they think we're lying. You don't pay me, the university does, and my job is to get people to apply. I want to be honest with you. I want to help you through the process. So please stop listening to them. Come to me when you have questions. Each CRNA school has their own requirements. Please do not assume that we operate the same way. Do not wait to apply. I think I stressed this enough. I don't know why students put off waiting to apply to a highly, highly competitive program. The admissions process is competitive. The program is hard. It is a doctoral program where the end goal is you are administering drugs to knock people out. It's supposed to be hard. I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about here. You're keeping people alive. It is supposed to be hard. If getting your doctorate was easy, everyone would have your doctorate. So don't let it surprise you when the admissions process is hard. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording. If you're watching this in the future and you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I would be happy to answer any of the admissions questions that you may have.